Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your NBA playoffs. First round and Game 1 series best bets mega explosion episodes. Something. It's your mega pod for the first round and Game 1 bets. We are going to get bets from multiple contributors today. You're going to get bets from Joe Dellera. You're going to get bets from Brandon Anderson. You're going to get bets from Michael Fiddle and a whole host of our contributors across Buckets, so you get the very best bets for the first round and the Game 1s for the 2025 playoffs. We're going to get started. Let's get started with Michael Fiddle. All right, join me now, Michael Fiddle, at Fiddle's Picks on Twitter and the Action Network app, the master of CLV, the predictor, the solver of the markets, Michael Fiddle. No series bets for him outside of the Clippers one that we grabbed on Buckets Live because he got an outrageous number on that, and I was too scared, and now I'm like, oh, I should have gotten that. He got a great price on it. What price did you get on Clippers on Buckets Live?
Plus 160, but if we're going to be honest, I should have played it 3 to 5 times as hard.
Yeah, it was. It's now minus 110 even, or Clippers favored at this point. So great job by Fiddle. You have to catch Buckets Live for those kinds of bets. But he does have two best bets for you for the Game 1s this weekend. Fiddle, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Clippers Nuggets, go right back to that series and go over 224.5, which is available a few places. And I will also take the Warriors plus 1.5 widely available.
Okay, let's start with Nuggets and Clippers. So tell me why you like the market on this and what the movement has been, and give me an idea of where your stopping point is as well for this price currently in the market at DraftKings. Game 1 sitting at 224.5, minus 108 to the over.
So if you get a 224.5, I'd be comfortable playing full unit. If you see a 225, maybe 3/4 of unit. If you see 225.5, maybe half a unit, and then that would be my stopping point. From a model perspective, I have it at 231.7, but obviously it's going to be significantly deflated for the NBA playoffs. We've seen most of these numbers be deflated about 8 to 10 points. It's pretty drastic. 8 points in the open and then starting to climb down. This is the one spot where the open has started to come back up. So I think that's very telling. I don't think it's that surprising when you have Jokic, who is a generational offensive player. Harden, I would say, at times in his career, generational offensive player. Kawhi Leonard is a dominant offensive player, way more than the defensive end now. So I think this is going to be a series where, you know, the Pacers, I mean, the pace of the Clippers, I said Pacers for Clippers pace, was pretty slow in the beginning of the season. But since the All-Star break, they've been playing a lot faster. They've been hunting more threes and such. So I do think you could look to overs here. So I like this number really to 226, so I'd play it to 225.5.
So I want to ask you this question. I would think that an over game or over series bends a little bit more towards the Nuggets because the Nuggets are the offensive team in this matchup. Now, the Clippers have been great on both ends, not denying that. But even it's like, if you're like, well, with Kawhi, they're this much better. And it's like, yeah, but you're still not, like, you're still behind Denver offensively. So, like, if this is an offensive series, I lean a little bit towards Denver on any sort of game. Like, I would think that Nuggets, money line, and over are probably correlated to a certain degree from a pre-game, like a pre-flop cap here. Am I crazy there?
You're not crazy. It's the reason why I've stayed away from sides for Game 1 as well. I just felt like the over was the best perspective. We're in Denver, so, you know, they should get that home court bump. They're coming in on a 3-game win streak under the new coach. They just look fantastic against Houston. So grabbing the Clippers plus 160 was merely like a ridiculous price. When we talked about it on Buckets Live, it was an outright arbitrage with some of the other numbers out there. So I was fortunate that I picked the right direction and didn't take the Denver side of the arbitrage at other places, which would have still been a bad ticket because its market has moved so far towards the Clippers, even further than the opening prices. So I'm staying away from Game 1. I look forward to watching it and coming back on Game 2. But yeah, I don't have any qualms with the idea that Denver and overs are correlated in this spot. You want to know how you could actually find that out and do a little trick?
How?
You go parlay them, right? So you go to any sports book, and you're not actually submitting this parlay, but if I put in right now, Clippers and the over, I get plus 234. Where if I put in Clippers and the under, I get plus 244. So you could, toy around with, obviously I'm doing this with the Clipper side and we're asking the Denver side, but toy around. Whatever the shorter price is from the sportsbook is the more correlated angle.
Smart. That's really smart. Okay. So this other one, this is going to be one I'm getting ready to do as we record this, I'm getting ready to do the Warriors pod with Brandon. So this will be a fun one to kind of break down. Warriors are -1, -108 at DraftKings, -112 on the money line. The market basically came out and just like took a dump on the Rockets. Like, and everybody's like, well, yeah. And it's just really funny because I could have predicted this was going to happen, because anytime that that like the intelligentsia is all like, oh man, like the Rockets are going to get upset. Anytime that happens, the books are like, well, we can price this however we want. Like, we don't have to have respect for the 2 seed here, because you're going to take Warriors no matter what, because you think that the Rockets aren't any good. So we get to price it this way. Even if that's maybe necessarily like, maybe that's just like the genuine power rating, but why do you like Warriors here?
And that's why you saw that reflected in the series price. When the Warriors came out like -200, like that was a staggering number to see the books project a 7 seed to have a 65+% chance of taking home this matchup against a 2 seed. The reason why I like the Warriors in game 1 is not the 5 days rest, which I think helps. Obviously, the veteran presence in a big spotlight game, that helps. I'm going back to prices that were in the regular season, and we've had this matchup twice. I care less about results. I know everyone wants to point to that game where the Rockets beat Golden State late in the season. Throw it out. I don't care. We could just as well point to when Golden State beat Houston in Houston. The teams have played twice in the iteration of Jimmy Butler on the Golden State Warriors. One time was a second night of a back-to-back in Houston where Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy all got together and they said, we're actually going to play. And the line moved and closed at Warriors -2 in Houston. Then when they played in Golden State, the closing line was Warriors -5.5 or 6. So if we just understand the basic principles of what home court advantage is worth and applying those previous data sets to what's going to come, I always say previous numbers matter more than results. What were the lines? How did they move? And to see consistent Warriors movement, I think once the limits open, once we get closer to game time, I think this line closes, pick 'em, Warriors -1. And so potentially Warriors -1.5 is where I would have this priced.
I looked up seeds that have home court, so 1 through 4, that are dogs in game 1. 4 and 7 straight up, 5, 1 ATS, which that doesn't matter here because it's a pick'em. What I do think is interesting is like typically you've even given this out. Like usually when we get these small like top seeds that are short numbers, it's been pretty good to go with them, right?
Yeah, historically it has been. I just think in this one, the whole Jimmy Butler dynamic provides a different beast, and the inexperience of a lot of these Houston guys, I think it'll be a wake-up call to see how Houston performs this offseason and how they maneuver. But I have made probably a whistle in a series sense. I don't know if they'll get it in game 1, but just objectively pricing wise. And last thing I'll say about the pricing stuff, Matt, is the 1 versus the money line is worth 6 cents of difference. So right now you could see +1, -112 available some places, and the money line of that same book is just +100. So you're getting better value on the money line in this sense. So I will always choose to take the better line. But if it was like -106 on the money on the spread, I would take the spread number and buy the insurance at fair value.
All right, it's Michael Fiddle who likes the Clippers Nuggets over and the Warriors to take game 1 in Houston. Up next, let's talk to Joe Dellera and get his best bets for the NBA playoffs, round 1 and game 1s. All right, I lied. It's not Joe Dellera. It's Joe Dellera and Jim Turvey. I got both the future Jays with me here on our Megapod Best Bets episode for game 1 and the NBA series. I wrangled these two into a room, and their response was, how many bets do you need? And I was like, I don't know, like a couple, like, a handful. And then like immediately got text messages back a little bit later going, I have many, many bets. I have too many bets. So we're going to go rapid fire, and we're going to go back and forth between the Jays. We're going to start with Joe Dellera, and then we'll go Jim Turvey. Joe Dellera, what's your first bet?
I am going to start. I'll start off with a juicy one. Dante DiVincenzo, Series 3's leader. That's as high as 20-1 right now on DraftKings.
Okay, I grabbed that one as well when I gave out on the Wolves pod. So you're stealing mine, and that's fine. That's okay. You mentioned it in our Slack originally. I gave you credit for it. Why do you like this one so much?
I just really think this is a great opportunity for him to scale up. I think that Mike Conley might become unplayable in this series. I think that he is going to be hunted like religiously on the defensive side of the ball. And DiVincenzo does provide a certain level of facilitating if he needs to take on that role, but he also can stretch the floor. He's definitely a better defender. He's a little bit more physical. He's a little bit like quicker. I think that Conley probably has a little bit higher basketball IQ, especially at this stage of his career. But Dante's athleticism and his ability to shoot the three, create for himself and for others, I think is going to be invaluable in this series. He plays plenty of minutes as it is, but if we scale up and he starts hitting like 30, 35, maybe even 40 minutes, if these games are competitive and he's playing well, he's going to get a lot of threes up. And if he's shooting and he's hot, we've seen him do this in the postseason. He's not afraid to rise up for the moment. I think that this number is just way too long at 20-1.
Yep. I like this. I don't know. Conley, it does look like, is probably going to be a target. I'll be very curious to see the kind of lineups that Finch pulls out in game one. I think we'll know very early on whether this is going to be a live bet or not. Like, this is not one that I think probably gets better as the series goes on, because I think you'll find very early, like, oh, Conley's really going to struggle. DDV is going to give them a lift or not. So we'll see how this one goes. Jim Turvey, your first bet.
I'll keep it in that series with a series leader bet of my own. This is kind of a funky one. So it's 4 different bets. It's Luka to lead in rebounds at plus 650 DraftKings, Julius to lead in rebounds plus 3,000 DraftKings, Naz to lead in rebounds plus 6,000 DraftKings, Ant to lead in rebounds plus 1,300 FanDuel. Basically what I'm doing is buying up all the land that isn't Rudy Gobert to lead in rebounds because, and I left off LeBron, his rebounds have been down notably since Luka came to town. So the premise behind this is the Lakers have been playing a lot of small ball. Their small ball lineup that you referenced in the preview, which was great, has been killer. But it is a very small ball lineup. The Wolves have 3 different options to kind of go as the singular big if they want to. They've got Naz Reid, they've got Julius Randle potentially even, and they've got Rudy Gobert. Now, Gobert in space is kind of overrated. We think of Luka making a shot over him at the end of the game, and then it's like, oh, he can't do anything in space. He is a good defender in space. But if the Lakers are going to a small ball lineup as frequently as we think they might because of its success, I think Gobert's minutes are not going to be as high as in the regular season. I think Naz Reid is a great option for that, hence him being on there. I think Julius Randle even is potentially an option. I think Julius Randle's going to get a lot of minutes regardless. I think you could see a fair amount of Randle and Reid. Randle, I think, is like a very similar body type to LeBron. He's obviously not nearly on the tier of his athleticism, but just bulk versus bulk, he will be a good option to throw at LeBron. Luka is going to be on the flip side of it. He's the favorite outside of Gobert, so I want him in there. And I want Ant in there, even though it's a really long number. He actually, I agree with you, Matt, entirely when you said that you're seeing this series as kind of a proxy for last year's, or seeing last year's Western Conference Finals as a proxy for this. I do think it's a very similar one. Ant led that series in rebounds, so he is very live to do something like this. And at 130-1 as the fourth option on a Gobert fade of rebounds, who is the massive favorite. He's out there at like minus 450. That's how I'm going to be attacking the rebound market for this series.
I think at this point that Finch is more likely to bench Gobert than any other coach has been. I think he has more equity with Rudy and with this group, and Rudy's a little bit older. I think he has more ability to bench Rudy than any other coach has. And what I mean by that is if you bench Rudy, it's going to be cause Rudy's going to make a fuss about it and he's going to pout and he's going to be pretty mad about it. But I think it's less likely to happen now. I think he's more likely to be like, whatever helps team win. Like, we want to win a championship. Like, if that's it's going to take, that's going to be okay. And so I could definitely see them going countering small. Because if you're the Wolves and you're like, Naz Reid in a small ball lineup is not a bad counter here. That might be something that can actually really help them. So I like this play quite a bit. That's smart. I like you buying up the Monopoly land, except leaving Park Place open. I like that.
Exactly.
Joe Dellera, next bet.
Yeah, I like that one too. I just kind of put all my chips on Randall there, but whatever, it is what it is. My next bet is going to be, I'm going to stay in the series. May as well stay here for a minute. It's kind of like a ladder opportunity. I'm going to take Anthony Edwards head-to-head assists versus LeBron plus 175 at ESPN, and then I'm also going to take Ant assists leader. And I think this has gotten bet down a little bit since I talked about it on Cash That, but it's about 15-1 right now as well. So I think that this is going to be an Anthony Edwards assist series. And the reason is I think the Lakers and JJ Redick are going to say, go ahead, anybody else can beat us. We don't care who, but anybody else can beat us. We will double you. We're going to send blitzes at you, and we're going to force this issue. The other thing is from the head-to-head perspective, if there was an Ant over under on his assist prop for this series, and it was at like somewhere in the 5 range, I would be on the over. I don't see it offered right now, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. In comparing it with LeBron, I think that this is just going to be, his assists just have been down since he's been playing with Luka and Reeves. And I think that you're going to see a lot more minutes with all 3 of them on the court because it's the postseason. But going back to the Ant stuff, I think that the Lakers are going to send a lot of blitzes. I think they're going to send a lot of doubles. We saw it last year in the playoffs when that was presented to him. He was able to get some big assist games out there, but it did kind of come at the detriment of the rest of the team. Other thing is, from an offensive perspective, it was, I think, a little bit harder to do that because you had an offensive player like Karl Anthony Towns on the floor. And not that Cat's like the best offensive player, but at the same time, I think it makes it even easier now for teams to just continue to commit to this bit of saying, Ant, you can't beat us scoring. Pass the ball to Randall, pass the ball to Alexander Walker, pass the ball to DiVincenzo. We don't care who it is, just pass the ball to somebody else. And Ant even kind of talked about that a little bit in an interview today. And when he was asked how he's kind of preparing for the series, and he was like, hey, I'm going to pass it. They better just let it fly. Like, they got to shoot. And like, I'm willing to pass. So I think that it's something that he's probably prepared for to a degree. And if that's working, I think even if the Lakers stop doubling him and stop blitzing him because it's working really well, I think it's going to kind of be in his head like, hey, I trust these guys right now because they're making the shots. I'm going to keep passing them to them. I think it's going to keep things open for the Wolves offense. So I like him to go over LeBron and then also be the assist leader as a little sprinkle.
Okay, so I'd have to request somebody that I know. I have a few people that have second spectrum to find this out. My concern always with the assist prop whenever a guy is facing blitz coverage is he can pass to the short roll, but then they're going to crash the short roll and he kicks to the corner and you don't get the assist. It's a secondary assist.
Yeah.
The other one is the connector pass where there's a blitz, you weak side reverse it to above the break, and then they kick it to the corner. Ant does that a little bit more. Like the key, what you want to be able to do is get to what Cade can do. Luka can do this. Obviously, Joker, LeBron it's that jump pass whip side to the reverse corner. Like if you can make that pass, then blitzing somebody is pointless because it's like you're giving up an open 3 every time. Like there's no chance for you to beat that coverage. I don't think Ant can make that pass. And so I am concerned a little bit. The key here, though, is like we can talk about the blitz coverage. I mean, he might just pick this up in transition. Like he might lead in assist just off of those. Yeah. So there's a bunch of ways for him for this to get home here. I like it versus LeBron quite a bit because I do think that LeBron's mostly going to be like a slasher, finisher, and spot up guy in this series. I don't think he's going to be creating as much as he usually does. But the series leader is where I start to be like, I don't know about that one. Interesting note, because I looked this up and it was shocking to me. When Anthony Edwards has more than 5 assists this season, the Minnesota Timberwolves are 18-7, 72%. When he has more than 5 assists, more than 6 assists, they're 12-3. When he has more than 7 assists, they're 6-0.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting little nugget to put away for your same game parlays. Jim Turvey, your next bet.
Well, I'm going to parlay that perfectly into 2 final bets. Joe and I were agreeing this is our favorite series to bet in general. Probably going to be one of the most fun series to watch in general. I'll parlay the first part into a player prop for the postseason. BetMGM had these up. They took them down. I think a couple books have them up right now, and I think they'll be back up at the MGM, maybe even by the time you're hearing this. So it's going to be Austin Reeves under 5.8 assists per game for the postseason.
So good.
I absolutely love this one. So they kind of they just base this number on the regular season number, and there's a lot more that goes into it now. So, since LeBron and Luka, or since Luka came to LA, it's been kind of that big three. In the games that the three of them have played together, there's a stretch from the 22nd of March to the 11th of April. All three of them are in it. They were taking games seriously, 12-game stretch. Reeves was down at 4.7 assists. Now you add in the fact that they're going to be playing a really tough Timberwolves defense in the first round. Not to spoil my next bet, but I'm not sure if they're going to make it out of the first round. Even if they do, in the second round, they're going to face either the Rockets, who are, an elite defense and really can work a player like Reeves, or the Warriors, who are top defense. If they get through that, it's going to be the Thunder and their top-rated defense. They are facing a gauntlet of defenses. So they're just going to be scoring less in general. Even if that was the only bit of the cap, I think I would be on this number. But when you add in the fact that LeBron and Luka are going to be there, he will probably get a few more minutes, some of the star players up, but the offense in general is down in the postseason. Top defenses again. I really like this Reeves under 5.8 assists for the postseason. And then the other bet for the series, we can kind of wrap it up here. I like Minnesota exact 4-2 in the series is plus 500. It's down a tiny bit from plus 540. Posted that in the app. I'm going with it. When we first talked, on this kind of playoff preview, I was a little bit skeptical. I was maybe shorting some of my Timberwolves stock, and I stepped back and said, you know what? This is literally the team that I've been wanting to bet for the second half of the season versus the team I've been looking to fade for the second half of the season. So I listened to you and Brandon's preview, and I got to say I'm on Team Brandon here, where I'm with you 100%. I know, shocking. Last year we went head-to-head a bunch, actually. But here's the thing. You are 100% right that the matchups are terrible. And that's why at first I was like, God damn it. Like, am I really going to have to suddenly be on the Lakers side of this? It broke so perfectly for them. I do have a lot of worries about the whistle. I do have a lot of worries about the whistle, beyond just the NBA wanting certain things or whatever. Jaden McDaniels is just constantly in foul trouble, and he's probably the best option to throw at Luka. But I think that, that's the thing, is they don't have good options to throw at Luka. That's kind of the fear. But I think I'm with Brandon. This team is just much better than this Lakers team. This Wolves team is really good. Anthony Edwards, we have seen perform incredibly in the postseason. Even if they do double him, if they can go to the lineup, and I agree with you. I think Finch has the cachet to roll out some of these kind of novelty lineups that leave a couple of big names on the bench. I referenced this in a tweet I sent out talking about how I talked myself back into the Wolves. The five-man lineup of DiVincenzo, Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid. Not a ton of minutes together by any stretch of the imagination, but a near plus 30 net rating with a defensive rating below 80. I want that lineup in there as much as humanly possible. I think Finch will go to it in key moments. I think he'll go to it relatively often. If not, this bet loses. That's why I'm taking the longer money exact. The Wolves aren't sweeping them. The Wolves maybe could go in 5 on them. I don't even think that's all that likely. So I'm fine cutting off those two, and they're definitely not going into LA and winning a game 7. Minnesota franchise is not going into Los Angeles franchise and winning a game 7 with the whistle that will be there against Luka and LeBron. Maybe it's insane to even be on the Minnesota side of this, but if I'm doing it, I want the 4-2 exact. You can get a 5-1 price on that. Again, it's the team that I wanted to be on against the team I wanted to fade. Don't overthink it with the matchups. And go for the longer shot and see what we can get. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is on Wolves being the team I want to be on.
So I ran, I gave that entire preview about how much I like the Lakers and Lakers are going to win and all these types of things. And I have this razor thin. I have it razor thin.
Come on over, Matt. Come on over.
I will. I think if Minnesota gets through, it's gonna be amazing. Like, I think that'd be a great win for the franchise. They made the Western Conference Finals last year. If they can make it through this series, I think the Wolves can win the West. I think they can make the finals if they make it out of the series. This is the one they have to get through. Yeah. So I will bet Lakers, and then if I lose that money, I will try and make it back by betting on the Wolves to win the West. Nice. And make the actual finals. Joe Dellera, your next bet.
Let's go to probably the most disgusting series that we have here, and It's going to be the Magic versus the Celtics, and I'm going to be taking Franz Wagner, rebounds leader, at 16-1 on DraftKings right now. So the reason I'm going here, I think it's a little bit of a dart, but at the same time, if you look at both of these teams, nobody has like a really dominant rebounding presence. And over the past 2 seasons, Franz is actually right behind Goga Batazde for the Magic's leading rebounder. Batazde's at 8, Franz Wagner's at 7.3. And basically nobody on Boston has had dominant rebounding performances against Orlando. I'm a little concerned because over the course of the entire postseason, I have a Tatum bet. I have Tatum over to average over 8.7 rebounds per game. So that's a little bonus one while I'm throwing it in here. But at the same time, I think that Franz is going to see max minutes. I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing 40 minutes a game. The biggest concern is obviously, are there going to be blowouts? And how does that kind of impact it? I think if anything, that might impact Boston a little bit more, where Boston says, hey, we're just going to rest our guys, whatever. Whereas Orlando's going to say, yeah, well, this is our shot. We have to get through you. We don't know if we're going to get another opportunity here. We need to see just how good this core of players are. And maybe Franz gets some extra run, even in some of these games that aren't necessarily that strong. I think Paolo is going to be in hell in this series. I think that the Celtics just have a million different types of players they can throw at him. And not that they don't have that for Franz, but I think Franz is a little bit more of an efficient player and should get some extra opportunities here on both sides of the ball. And I like him to be the rebounds leader. I think the number is just a touch long at 16-1.
They have not shown a real willingness to commit to Goga, even though every advanced metric is hey, so if you just play Goga Batazde, you're going to win every stint that he plays by 10 points per 100 possessions. And the Magic are no, let's not do
It's not going to do it.
and look, I love Wendell Carter Jr. I've loved how he's kind of evolved his game. What's his number what's Wendell's for rebounds?
Let's see. He is at plus 410. He's favored by relative to where Franz is. Let me see where else what the other number is. Yeah, he's plus. There's a plus 750 out there on DraftKings for this.
Wow.
I don't know. I just don't they're not really incorporating Goga at all here in any of these markets. And I think that there is an opportunity, or there's a chance where if things go sideways, they go, all right, well, let's switch centers. And then both centers are basically nuked for Orlando.
Sure.
So nobody's gonna be able to catch up. I also think, I know you guys both kind of like Orlando. There's a very high probability they get swept.
Yeah.
And this is a 4-game series, which I think adds to some of the variability in this type of bet.
Yeah.
The series leader market, where if you're taking a dart, if Franz has a 12 rebound game, there might not be a 12 rebound game from anybody else in this series.
I like it. Smart. Jim Turvey, your next bet.
Joe just teased it. It is Orlando. I'm on the Orlando side of things. We're going to take plus 3.5. We're going to take plus 2.5. And you can also do just over 4.5 games is basically priced the same as plus 3.5. So it's right in that minus 150 range. I don't need to dive too much into this. You guys covered it on your preview today. I'm very similar in thinking that this is kind of a crazy number we see Boston give away games constantly. Now, Brandon said, it's not as much in the first round. But then he only listed one sweep. They still do it fairly often. And this Orlando team they just are a great matchup for Boston. Again, go to your guys' preview for the entire breakdown. We don't need to go too in depth here, but you don't need to go a whole lot deeper than Orlando's defensive scheme is basically crafted to slow down Boston's offense. And they can make these games ugly. Boston, I have my questions about, but I think even if you are a Boston believer, this number is kind of a little bit crazy. Boston's clearly the better team, but matchup-wise, I think that this is one of the worst draws they could have gotten from this tier of teams in the bottom of the East. So if you escalate it up to plus 2.5, you get a plus 320 as well. I'll even sprinkle that. I think that it's a very good chance that it's 4-2 Boston, and they blow them out 3 of the 4 wins, but Orlando, kind of gets grimy and wins a few of those close games. Paolo's been awesome in the postseason, what we've seen of him. He didn't have as many points as Joe and I was hoping for in the play-in game, but he was a great creator, and I thought played a really strong game overall. Franz looked good. Corey Joseph has looked decent, and Cole Anthony had a pretty good game in the play-in. If Cole Anthony is being a valuable basketball player, this Orlando team's better than a 7 seed would suggest.
It's okay, Jim. Not everybody can hit a 4-leg same game parlay on a playing game. Not everybody.
In direct conflict with me. It just sizzled me.
Incredible.
Yeah. I think one of the important things about this Magic thing is, look, it's so rare that we actually like a dog of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's like, I don't want
They
don't want to do this. And with Orlando, you're kind of like, they're pretty good. Like, they have some guys. Like, they're good defensively. You can actually, and I think when you have those opportunities, you should take them, knowing that, like, look, you're betting on longer numbers.
Gross.
It's not like we're not betting this like, plus 2.5 games plus 110. That's not what we're doing here. So it's a longer shot. I think there's good value on it. I agree. Joe Dellera.
Yeah, so I think that Orlando might get shit pumped, and I'm gonna take Pritchard threes leader at 14-1 on DraftKings. I think that there's just plenty of opportunity. This could. I'm a little concerned because I think that there is going to be a day of reckoning for Peyton Pritchard and his props in these playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be against the Orlando.
Wait, Joe, you do know that the 6th Man of the Year campaign's done. They don't have to play him anymore. They can admit that he's a terrible player, that they can go back to mothballing in the postseason.
But the thing is, they're playing the Orlando Magic, who can't score.
Orlando Magic. How dare you?
So, I just think that there's going to be plenty of blowout opportunity here, and they're just going to let him play. I think that he's going to be able to get some run. I think he's going to be able to get threes up, and it's generally a little bit of a slower paced game against Orlando. But at the same time, I think that he's going to get minutes. He still is the 6th man for this Boston team, and I think that they're going to want to give their guys some rest if they can. And even if a game starts to get out of hand, they're going to say, all right, here you go put up threes, and that's what he's going to do. So I think at 14-1. It's a little bit too long in a series that I think Boston is going to I think that Boston's just going to crush in this series. So there's that.
Why do you think Boston's going to crush?
Why do I think they're going to crush? Because Orlando can, sometimes they just can't even score 100 points. And
I think that's a bad thing.
Threes.
It was really funny when the game, in the second quarter, I messaged you guys and I was like, "Yo, Orlando's live. Let's do this. Let's take out Boston." And then they went on a 25-minute drought, and I was like, "Oh wait, never mind. I'll just go."
That's why.
Play them one game.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to find this on BetMGM because I actually do want to bet that Pritchard one. That Pritchard one's really cheap.
I think it was DK I had it on.
Okay, I'll find that over at DK. Jim Turvey.
Let's go back to the Western Conference. I'm going to do a series that was settled more recently. We've got the 2-7 Houston Golden State. I'm going to be on the Golden State side of things, but I think this is going to be a really close series. I think it's going to be a real dogfight. I think that Houston is semi-live, but I think the way I want to play it is Houston game 1, Golden State Warriors for the series. You can get that plus 260. So Golden State's coming into this beat up. They just had to play the play-in game. This is if Houston's going to catch them, they really got to win game 1. I think that Houston will take care of business in that first game. But I do think ultimately I want to be on the Warriors side of things. I know the number is kind of crazy, and I wanted to talk myself into getting on the Houston side of it. Joe caught a plus 200, and I was like, man, if I saw plus 200, I probably would have done it. But then I was like,
literally everybody.
Yeah. And then I was like, wait, but how much would I have actually put on it? And it made me realize, you know what? I don't know if I really want to be on that Houston side of it. So I think Houston game 1, Golden State for the series, plus 260, I really like. But Matt, I think you'll like this. I mentioned when we were just talking on Future Jays during the season that I wanted to bet Houston, every game decided by 5 points or less or whatever. On DraftKings, you can bet 2 or more overtime games 25-1 for this series. So I'll be making that long shot bet as well. Figured Mr. Overtime himself, who cashed that in the play-in game, I thought you might appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll have to check the numbers and see if I want to get in on that one. But I will say that is very tempting. P.S. Hawks Heat Friday overtime play is going to be coming in.
If he just won't die, man. I wanted to hedge miss the playoffs, and I should have. The boogeyman's real, dude.
I have reached wait, is Spo going to do this again? What if the Heat make a run?
Dude, if the Heat take out the Cavs, you might not see me on the show again. I might have to go into
Joe Dellera.
All right. This one's a little bit chalkier, but I'm going to be taking Malik Beasley, threes leader against the New York Knicks. I just think this number is crazy. It opened at there was a minus 125. I'm seeing minus 155. I think is the best number right now. I think you can still bet this. The last game that Beasley played against the Knicks was only 0 for 3. It was 0 for 3 from 3-point range, but it was kind of a funky game. It was towards the end of the season. Other games he's had this year against New York, 6 for 8, 7 for 10, 2 for 6. He is going to put up some monster numbers, I think, on this Knicks team because they just give up this shot. The shot that he takes is the shot that they give up. And it's basically from overhelping on everybody else, and then you leave the sharpshooter alone. And that's just what's killed them throughout this season. It's killed them last season, and it's been like a major issue for New York. We've seen this with Beasley. DeAndre Hunter's done this to them. Numerous players in the Celtics have done this to them. I don't really think that if we look at the volume throughout the rest of the teams, there's not a ton of 3-point volume consistently from anybody else, whereas Beasley is consistently putting up threes. I would like Cat in this spot. I think that Cat should shoot threes, but I don't coach the New York Knicks. So, and he's been taking less than one a game lately. Beasley to me, I think is just a clear favorite in this. And I would probably bet it up to minus 250, minus 300.
You wind up giving up a lot of corner threes when you can't contain on ball.
Yeah.
If you have a pick and roll action that they can get to.
And Cade makes that pass that you were talking about with Ant. So
a Jalen Cat pick and roll defensive duo will that's not exactly the Orlando Magic or Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, yours.
I can weave in a couple in one final series, and then I'll be all set for mine. So I'm going to go over to I think will probably be everyone's most anticipated series of the first round: Clippers and Nuggets. I'm going to be on the Clippers side. I'm going to do Clippers 4-2 exact. Kind of similar to the Timberwolves 4-2 exact. That's plus 410. That's come down a little bit. One thing I think is interesting in this series is how much, you guys talked about it, how in the live show, I think Fiddle grabbed a plus 180 on the Clippers or something, and it's now minus on the Clippers side. So the sharp action is getting hammered on the Clippers side. What I think is amazing is that this 4-2 exact hasn't really come down to the same extreme level. I grabbed, I didn't grab a 180, but I am on the Clippers side of it. I grabbed it kind of middle of the road there, plus 135. I definitely want to be on the Clippers side of things. But I think we all agree this is going to be a dogfight of a series. Over 5 games is a great bet as well. You talked about that. That had been minus 155. Now that's up to minus 200. So I'm kind of confused as to why, the market has shifted a lot towards the Clippers. The market has shifted a lot towards a long series. I don't really want to do it. I think they could win a game 7 in Denver with a Kawhi type player. I think you can do that, but I'd much rather get the home team Clippers, who have been awesome at home and kind of mid on the road, not having to go into Denver, get it done in game 6 exact plus 410. I think is a really good number on the series. I want to be on the Clippers. I think it's going to go long. I think it's a great way to approach it. From the player side of things in this series, I'm going to be all over Jokic scoring points in general. So there's a couple of markets at MGM. You can get him to go for 40 plus in any game at plus 120. I think this is going to be a long series. You get more bites at the apple there. 45 plus is plus 520. I don't mind that escalator as well. And then Jokic to lead the series in threes, you can get it 30-1 plus 3,000 still. I love that. I think he's going to be doing a lot of scoring. I think Zubac is a really good defender for him in the post. One of the few guys who you could even theoretically leave one-on-one because he has kind of the build to be able to pull it off. He doesn't really have the build to chase him out to the perimeter. So I think we've seen Jokic, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He's got to be taking more of those in a series like this. I think that the Clippers kind of have the horses to make Jokic beat them. We've seen some teams try that in the past. If you put Dunn on Murray, you put some of the, Derek Jones Jr., Batum even, not Terrence Mann anymore. There's one other wing defender they have there. They have tons of wing defenders they can throw at guys. I think you can kind of be like Jokic. You can score 40 a game. Your teammates are going to score, 50 a game, and we're going to win 100-90, and we're content with that. So I think that they'll be more than fine with making Jokic a scorer more than a playmaker. So I'll be looking at a lot of different angles to do that. And my favorite ones are those single game 40 plus in a single game and threes leader at 30-1.
I gotta find it. Somebody tweeted me that the Kawhi's record in elimination games, and that's poor. That was my big takeaway there, was like, I've actually come around on the Clippers because I had to basically upgrade them in power rating when I was just like, I finally gave in and was like, fine, they're this magical new team that they've been in the month of March.
Yes, magical when their best player got healthy and got minutes.
And they played against a bunch of nonsense games
in March.
And also, by the way, their best player who doesn't make anyone else better. Like, he's not a playmaker. He's not a floor raiser. He's not a defensive presence that blocks off the rim.
Hey, Matt, but we talk about perimeter defense. Don't you be flipping out on us.
He was really great in the Warriors game.
He looked so good.
He looked so good because he was playing the Warriors and then was like remembering what it was like to be in 2017. Then that will pass. But I also, the most likely outcome I have after doing my adjustment to power rating is Clippers in 6. I have that 22% of the time.
Boom.
They're just so boring. They're such a boring team.
It's okay. More money isn't boring, so let them make you money, and that's fun.
Call it a day.
Joe, run rapid fire through the rest of your bets.
All right. I also was on Jokic threes leader. I like Norman Powell threes leader at plus 550. I think that he is the other angle that you want on this series. And then the last one that I'll give is like a little bit of a long shot, but Giannis 30 plus in every game is plus 1150 on MTM. I would not be like overly surprised if the Pacers boat race the Bucks. And I think that there's an opportunity for this to be a short series. And I think that Giannis, the one thing about Giannis in the playoffs is Giannis plays like 40 minutes. And that is a significant difference and departure from what he normally plays. We're seeing a lot of games where he plays 30 during the regular season just because they're trying to rest him. I think he's going to get plenty of minutes out there. 30 plus in every game is not outrageous when I think we might even be looking at like a 5-game series. So I wish you could parlay it, but this is kind of an angle on that as well.
Joe saw a plus 1350 and said, I wish you could parlay it.
Well, because it's directly correlated to being a shorter series.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
These like in every game bets, I think they look really attractive. The longer the series goes, the worse value. Like, it's just not a good value anymore. It's only a good value a lot of times, like if you think it's priced, like the number is wrong in and of itself. So I also think it's worse if it goes long because there's a higher likelihood that Dame maybe comes back.
Yeah.
We got all these from you guys, and we didn't get any game 1 bets. There are more game 1 bets throughout the rest of the episode, but these guys, they are the future Jays, so we had to
live up to the name.
I didn't even know we were doing that.
Yeah, same. I was like, I got 25 more. I mean, like, you got time?
We'll get their game 1 bets in the Action Network app. Make sure to check that out as well. Joe Dellera on Twitter in the Action Network app at Joe Dellera. Jim Turvey from Roto Grinders at Turvey Bets. Next up, let's get some props from Gill Gallant. Now, I've been thinking that this show needs some more props. I can't believe that we haven't gotten more props from the psychos that I have on this show who are always betting them. But luckily, Gill Gallant is here to save the day. Gill Gallant, you know him from the Action Network podcast. You know him from the Touchdown Show during the NFL season. He covers all things across multiple sports for the Action Network. He's rocking the Action Network cap over at youtube.com/the Action Network. Gill, thanks for stopping by. Give me some best bets for game 1s in the NBA.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, Matt, I do bet more than touchdowns, even though obviously I love betting NFL touchdowns. And NBA props, especially near the end of the regular season, are kind of difficult to gauge. You don't know who's going to be playing. That's why I love game 1s, because I feel like we can get ahead of some certain markets before they over adjust for game 2 and 3 and onward. So let's start with the Celtics Pacers. I'm looking right to a star player here, but it's going to be Jason Tatum. I'm not looking at his points, though. I'm actually looking at his rebounds and assists against the Magic. It's at 14.5. I'm going to take the over here. It's around minus 110, minus 115. So let me just break down why I like Tatum here in the spot to really fill up the stat sheet, because he averaged around 14.7 rebounds assists during the regular season, around 36 minutes per game. But in the playoffs, he has consistently been playing 40 or more minutes. We have seen this now over the last 3 playoff runs, 40 plus minutes average over those 3 playoff runs. And now facing a Magic team that I know that they put up 120 points, but that was the grossest 120 points I've ever seen in a play-in game from the Magic. Their offense is awful. They're the worst shooting team in the playoffs by far. Last in 3-point percentage, second last in overall field goal percentage during the regular season. So I think there's just going to be a lot of rebound opportunities, especially because Missoula tends to have Jason Tatum play a lot more of the 4 in the postseason as well. And I just think his rebound chances are only going to increase. Plus, you're seeing a career high in assists from Jason Tatum at this point. So I think he's playing a little bit more of a playmaker role. So I think he can exceed this quite easily at 14.5 rebounds and assists. I like this one better than playing like a double-double prop as an example.
I like it. So the Magic play a scheme that's going to be very perimeter oriented. Like we've talked a lot about one of the biggest reasons we liked the Magic here to probably win more games than expected. If anyone can, what's the word? Oh yeah, that's right. Make a shot. Just shoot anything.
Just make one.
Any shots. But that perimeter approach, if you're trying to do that, one of the real killers is you will have more offensive rebounds, especially for the Celtics, which there's like this conflicting data on how many offensive rebounds are allowed off of threes. Like the idea is more threes lead to longer rebounds because it's like that above the break. We've all seen it, right? Like I always try and put these things into actual context of, you know how like somebody shoots an above the break 3 and it bounces off the back of the backboard or back of the rim rather and bounces straight back out. Those kind of rebounds are what we think about, but there actually isn't that much of a differential based off of the data. However, what happens when your perimeter defense is stretched to the edges is there's more opportunities for guys to get around and crash, which is why I'm actually probably going to be looking for Derek White rebounds overs too in this situation. But Tatum's a monster. Like Tatum is an absolute monster in terms of how he approaches rebounding. So even though Orlando is 4th in offensive rebound percentage allowed this season, so defensive rebound percentage effectively via cleaning the glass, I think this is a really smart play because you have to guard the Celtics so differently. That's going to, I think, invert a lot of what Orlando wants to do in terms of like typically containing the paint. So I think this is a really good play on the rebounds and assists. It's a good look there.
The only other one that I would consider, and just because we just talked about the shooting and we'll move on from that game, but Franz Wagner, I've been fading his 3-point prop in the playoffs consistently, and especially near the end of after All-Star break. So right now, under 1.5 3-pointers is around plus 140. I'm not sure if anybody watched his form and mechanics in that game. It was awful. So I don't think he trusts his 3-pointer at all. So I'd be shocked if he hits 2 3-pointers on the Celtics defense. But alas, Jason Tatum over 14.5 rebounds and assists. That's my favorite prop of the game.
Yeah. Okay. I like that as well, by the way, because that oblique injury, like anytime you mess with a guy's shoulder, arm, and especially those upper body muscles, it's just hard. Like it takes so many reps for them to get comfortable again. And you can, I think, see that with Franz as well.
Well, let's move to this is my next one. This is my second favorite one, but this one, the next 2 props, dude, they're very gross. So I'm just going to give a caveat there. All right, let's go to Pacers Bucks. I'm going to take a guy who I think is a little bit ick from a personal standpoint, but I really like his prop here. And that is Kevin Porter Jr. over 3.5 assists versus the Pacers. So part of why I wanted to look at Kevin Porter here is how the Bucks have played without Damian Lillard. And Lillard, since he's been gone out of the lineup, I know he missed some games throughout the year, but let's just look at it from March 20th onward when he was fully not in the lineup anymore. So Porter cleared this in 5 of 7 games in April, has seen his minutes increase as well with Damian Lillard out. He is now essentially the backup point guard, secondary playmaker. And I think the Bucks have also just shown they want to give him more minutes. I mean, Doc Rivers, I'm not sure if he really fully trusts Ryan Rollins yet, especially in the second year. So then, of course, you could look at the games against the Pacers with the Bucks. He played less than 20 minutes in both games, and he cleared it in both times. But why I was looking at this is the minutes. I think he's going to have to play more than 20 minutes tonight. Or in game 1, and he has played at least 20 minutes for the Bucks in 13 games. And he has cleared this line when he plays 20 minutes in 10 of those 13 games. And since Damian Lillard has gone down, he's been playing 20 or more minutes in 9 of those 13 games since Dame is gone. So I think Kevin Porter is going to play at least 20 minutes. I think the assist chances, the potentials are going to be there. I think right now we're getting ahead of that. And I think what's going to happen is he's going to clear this line, and then the next game we're going to see it at 4.5, and that's when we could start to maybe looking at fade potential. But right now that line, it should be around 4.5 in my opinion. So I think over 3.5 assists at -115 for Kevin Porter Jr. against this Pacers defense is a very solid look.
Yeah, and they need another creator. So on court, this is more like the overall. I'm trying to look at overall offensive quality here because obviously higher offense is going to lead to more assists. Giannis with Kevin Porter Jr. 125 offensive rating. Now that drops to 110.7 when Giannis is not on the court for Kevin Porter Jr. But I think if you kind of look at the way that the role he's going to play, and like we've been talking about him being a big factor in the series. Again, I want to be clear, Kevin Porter Jr. should not be in the National Basketball Association, but he is, and he's playing really well right now. So I think it's probably a smart prop play here on his assist play because the Pacers are going to have to sell out on Giannis. And one of the things that they're going to try and do to counter that is going to be a lot of extra passes. So honestly, KPJ could also be the recipient of a lot of secondary assists from Giannis in terms of Giannis kicks to him and he kicks to the corner and then Taurean Prince shoots a 3. So those kind of opportunities will just get him really easy. Plus at this kind of a number, you're just talking about like what he gets 1 assist in transition and that can wind up being the difference maker there for you with the play on KPJ. I like it. What's your last one?
All right, last one. This is the grossest one, especially because buckets has become like almost like a de facto Knicks Nuggets pod. But I'm going to fade a Nick here, and I'm going to take under 2.5 3-pointers for Jalen Brunson. So I grabbed this at -115. It's at -120 right now. So let's talk about it. So he's shooting 38% from 3-point, but I think the main thing people have to kind of look into context, he's only averaging 6 3-point attempts per game this year. That's not a lot for a volume shooter like Jalen Brunson. His drives per game is also up this year, highest as a Nick. And also his free throw rate is way up. That's the way that he's been getting a lot of his points this year, career high in free throws per game this year. And the majority of his points are scored inside the arc. Even last year, where he was going on a tear, he was averaging 32 points per game in the postseason. There was at one point his over-under points line was 35.5. Even in those games, he was only averaging 6 3-point attempts per game. The 2.5, 3.5 3-point lines are usually reserved for those guys who are averaging at least 8 3-point attempts per game. I'm not seeing that from Jalen Brunson, and I think the court is going to shrink. I expect the Pistons really to try and just get the ball away from Brunson. But also, this is the next trend, though, Matt, and you're going to laugh at me at why I've been doing this because I did this the first 2 years of Jalen Brunson being a Knick. I'm going to do it again this year. I love fading Jalen Brunson in game ones of series. Okay. So over the last 2 years, I bet this that it's hit every time. He's played 8 career game ones in his career. Do you know what his 3-point percentage is in those games, Matt?
It doesn't sound 10%. Like it's good, Jill.
3 for 30 total. 4 of those game ones were with the Knicks. He's 3 for 21 from 3-point in those games. Jalen Brunson is the type of player who more like feels out a series, in my opinion. So right now we're getting under 2.5, around -120. I just think that game one, it's not going to be a 3-point show for him. He's going to be able to have those big 3-point games later in a series when teams adjust their defenses. But for this game specifically, game one, every time he plays a game one, I am going to fade his 3-point prop.
This is nuts.
Look at his game ones. Every playoff game.
He has 8 game ones in the database I'm checking, and he has 4 with 0 and 4 with 1. What a look, Jill. What a look.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I'll look like a genius if he goes 1 for 7 again from 3-point in this game. But I just think in game ones, that's the one that you want to look at Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you could take at it and you can look at the fact that 4 of those games were with the Mavs and he wasn't as prominent offensively this point. But I still see 4 with the Knicks, and in those games, 3 for 21 from 3-point in those games. He's just not an efficient 3-point shooter, and that's not really how he gets his points. Like I was joking with Joe Dellera about this. It's like he'll probably put up 35 points, but he'll probably go 1 for 6 from 3-point, and that's very common for him in a playoff game.
I will provide a counterpoint, which is that versus the Pistons this year, he had his 3rd highest 3-point attempts of the season in terms of average versus any opponent. 7.8 attempts per game, 3.3 makes. The counter I would make to you from a tactical perspective is The Pistons are in luck in that they have the personnel to where they don't have to sell out on Brunson. So the idea of them being like, we're going to blitz him, you don't want to blitz him, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to give this Knicks offense easy stuff. You don't want to give them dunks at the rim. You don't want to give you want to make Josh Hart make threes. You want to make other guys have to make play. You want to try and test OG Anunoby as good as he is and be like, all right, we'll take post ups from you versus our smaller defenders, as long as we're not getting wide open threes or cuts to the rim. And so what they're probably going to do is they're probably just going to play base drop coverage with Jalen Duren in the 1-5 with Cat, which means I like Cat's threes in this series a lot. But the other thing is, Asar is just going to go over the top of that screen. And if Brunson's able to get if they set a higher screen up the court and he's able to get to the 2-dribble pull up off of that pick and roll, he'll take the 3-pointer. Now, the counter here might be, from my perspective, I've talked a lot about this, based off of the coverage in the regular season, Duren and Stewart do not feel comfortable stepping out on Cat. Every time that they do it, Cat's like, I'm driving past you. Every time. And so they have to play back, which means an easy pick and pop pass. And Brunson may just opt for that every time. So there's a lot of ways for you to get here. But I can't argue with, you're right, with the Knicks. 3 games with 1 3-pointer, 1 with 0 in game 1s. Phenomenal stat. That's a great one, Gill. Terrific stuff from Gill Gallant. You can catch him in the Action Network app and on Twitter. It's G Dog. Yes.
G Dog 5000.
G Dog 5000, because that's the kind of integrity that Gilles brings to Action Network.
That's a 30-year-old Twitter handle. I'm not sure if I could still rock that as a 40-year-old. We'll see how it goes.
KPJ over 3.5 assists, Brunson under 2.5 3-pointers, and Tatum over 14.5 rebounds and assists. Thanks so much, Jill. Joining me now, Bryan Fonseca, King of New York. You can find him on Twitter at Bryan Fonseca NY. His YouTube channel is at Bryan Fonseca, and you can catch me on there talking NBA playoffs this week. So make sure to go check out that page from Bryan. He's also on Blue Sky as well, as am I, if you want to catch me over at the Blue Skies HP Basketball. Bryan, you got series bets, game 1 bets. The world is your oyster. What do you want to do?
We have mostly series bets. Game 1 is contingent upon what happens Friday.
Okay.
But I do have a game 1 bet I like as well. It just depends on a certain play and outcome.
Okay.
So we'll start with
let's
series.
just do them one by one. Let's talk about the series bets that you like. Start wherever you want.
We'll go to Knicks Pistons because I have 2 there, and they're both kind of related to one another. But one of them is Knicks to lead 2-1 after 3 games.
Okay.
This is something that I will hat tip Jim Turvey. He spotted. We talked about this in Slack, a few of us. I really love this play. Also related to that, I have Knicks and 6. That one's plus 470. The other one is plus 110. So both in that series.
Okay. So,
and I have something else we'll get to in a bit in the Western Conference.
Okay. So let's talk about Knicks Pistons. 2-1. I think there's somebody else that's on this one as well. We basically, like, all of us assume that I think, like, I like this bet because all of us kind of assume the sequencing, I think, makes sense, right? The Pistons win game 1, the Knicks get serious and win the next 2. The Pistons win game 2, the Knicks come back and respond in Detroit to get the 2-1 series lead. The Knicks win the first 2. First game of Detroit, first playoff game, they're 0-2, backs against the wall. It makes a lot of sense. Is there anything else in that kind of equation that makes you lean towards this bet?
Yeah, it just has the feel of a series, and we've been talking about this. Maybe we'll be wrong, but we feel like this is going to be competitive. And I think the Pistons will probably split at the Garden, and I think the Knicks will probably split at Detroit. And then the Knicks will put this away with wins in game 5 and 6. Like, I kind of think I'm contemplating sprinkling on like the exact order and going like Pistons, Knicks, Pistons, Knicks, or something along those lines. Like maybe a couple different combinations because the odds are just ridiculous. But you could do that this time of year. And it's something I wouldn't put a ton of money on. But it's, there's a lot of sprinkle-worthy stuff as it pertains to the playoffs. This is just plus 110, so it's not going to be like amazing in terms of, value perhaps. But it's plus 110. And I think that Detroit is good enough. We talked about this even on my YouTube channel, the formula for them to beat the Knicks in a game, in 2 games, or whatever the case may be, potentially in the series, depending on how the Knicks defense reacts to it, is the matchup with Kay Cunningham is going to be very difficult individually. You think that Mikal Bridges is probably the best matchup for him, and I would agree with that, but I would say that still is going to open things up for others You have Malik Beasley, who's having an insane shooting season. Kirk Goldsberry went on Bill Simmons' pod and said that he's basically having a better season than Klay Thompson ever did as a shooter, like as a catch and shoot shooter, which is very interesting. And statistically, I mean, I'm not going to say that Kirk Goldsberry is wrong. I'm pretty sure he's dead on the money with that. So with these different elements, and Malik Beasley is going to be super important in this series because the Knicks do give up some threes, and they give up a high percentage of 3-point makes. Like, they just allow a lot of open threes, and this is how teams have been able to open up that defense. Yeah, despite the fact that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are purported to be Wingstop, but they haven't been that good this season from a defensive standpoint consistently. You know, OG Anunoby has looked better as of late, but at the same time, like, how much Cade Cunningham is he going to see? And if he does see Cade Cunningham a lot, that's going to be pretty worrisome that he has to, because that's going to open things up for other members of the Detroit Pistons. Also think Jalen Duren could have a sneaky good rebounding series, but he's going to be essential there. Like, there's a pathway to doing this. The Pistons are going to have to rein in threes against this Knicks team. And they can also like balance that with some toughness. Like, Isaiah Stewart could push them around. Ron Holland can get in the mix. Like, they have dudes on this team that are more physical than players on the Knicks, who are a more finesse team comparatively than they were last season. A team that Knicks fans seem to like more than this season's team, despite the fact that this team is more talented. So, yeah, with all those combinations there, like, I like Knicks in 6, and I like the Knicks to be leading 2-1 after 3 games.
I like all this. This all sounds good. Let's do your next best bet.
Okay, this one, the social team that we have will be very excited to know that a parlay is coming.
Let's go!
And I try not to go crazy with parlays, but this is one that I think is realistic. It's all Western Conference series. All Western Conference series. So we have Timberwolves Lakers over 5.5 games. Okay. We have Golden State Houston over 5.5 games, and we have Clippers Nuggets over 5.5 games. That right now is plus 226. I think in the Western Conference, those 3 series, not the Thunder one, but those 3 series will go the distance. We'll go 6-7 games each.
Okay. All right. So far be it from me to try and talk you off of a parlay, as I am very want to put things together unnecessarily. But so my concern here is Brandon and I talk a lot about this on the series previews, which is like there's what I call tilt series, which is they start off evenly matched, and then one team has an advantage and the other team can't adjust to it. And there's just like nothing, and it just like it veers the other way. And by game 4, you get the feeling of like, yeah, they're drawing dead. Like this team, they just don't have a counterpunch. Houston and Golden State both, I feel like, are at risk of that because Houston, it might just be like, yeah, no, we can match them. We just can't fucking score. Like we just can't break 95 points on them. And then conversely, with Golden State, it might be just like, oh, we're old and not very good. Like they've just got our number, man. Like they've come up with big plays over and over again. Clippers Nuggets is also like another tough one for me, where it's like, I'm on over 5.5 games in that series, and one of the reasons is I'm just like, all right, 2 for Kawhi, 2 for Yoke, and then we'll figure it out from there. But it might be just as simple as like Denver just can't defend. Like Denver just can't, and the Clippers are just fucking way better. Like I had to upgrade my power rating based off of peer pressure from everybody in action. Like everybody's like the Clippers are like Jim Turvey, Brandon. Everybody's like Clippers are elite. They're elite. You know, Zach Lowe talked about it, about how good their net rating has been. Like when I looked at all the numbers, I was just like, I have to give them more of a bump. So I gave them this like big upgrade, and now it's like, oh, this like winds up dramatically kind of tilting how the series is set to go. Now, I still have the most likely outcome at Clippers in 6, and the biggest outcomes are still in 7. I've got that like widely arranged, like over 5.5 is still definitely mathematically where I want to be at. But I'm curious as to why, what's your, like, what about what I've kind of presented as concerns for you? Why are the reasons you feel strongly these series are all going to go long?
The one that I probably would worry about the most is admittedly Houston and Golden State because of what you talked about. Like I have I have hopes that this is a 7-game series, and I think there are reasons that could happen. But to your point, if we're gonna err on the side of concern for the purposes of moving along this conversation with Houston, it's right there. It's like the youth. Is that going to be a hindrance? And the late game offense. These are probably the things that people worry about the most as they dive deep into the series. Their half court offense isn't great. Their late game offense isn't great. And they're very, very young. And they just got here. They're in the playoffs for the first time in a little bit now. And with Golden State, you're on the other end of the spectrum where it's like you're old and you're overly reliant on Stephen Curry and also now Jimmy Butler to do a little bit of everything late in games. You're not really playing Jonathan Kuminga anymore, who can give you some form of creativity. I don't know if the Houston series is one they're all of a sudden going to unleash him in. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Doesn't feel like that's the case, at least to start the series. We'll see how it progresses and if that's one of the adjustments that Steve Kerr is going to make at some point. But there's a world where these games are just close, kind of like the Celtics-Pacers series, and Golden State just keeps finishing them, whereas Houston can't. And then there's a world where Golden State just gets roughed up by this Ime Udoka-led awesome Houston Rockets defense. And, Jimmy Butler is kind of in hell a little bit. And Stephen Curry can't get his shots off clean. And then it's like, all right, Brandon Podziemski has to beat the Houston Rockets. Quentin Post has to beat the Houston Rockets. And that's the other thing is Houston's deeper. Like Golden State they have guys that can defend. Like we're going to see a lot of Gary Payton II in this series. Like we're going to see things like that. But with Houston, they have so many guys. Like Tari Eason is a rotation player who would be probably playing a lot more on Golden State if he were on the roster. Maybe not a lot more, but a good deal more. This team is deep. So that series is one where I'm like, okay, like to your point, someone could just figure the other one out quicker. I do think both coaches are really good, though. I know Steve Kerr's gotten a lot of shit like on social media, but I mean, he's a good coach. And Ime Udoka, I think, is one of the best coaches right now. Also, like he's proven that in a short amount of time, but he was also very much appreciated as an assistant, to where people were like, when he becomes a head coach, he's going to be really good, and he's been that as somebody who was a former player as well. So that's probably the series that I look at the most. I feel like I'd be pretty stunned if the other two went under. Now with Denver and the Clippers, if I may talk this out with you, the one concern I have is, I'll make a boxing comparison, but sometimes you just watch a fight that you think is going to be very close, and then you see round one and you're like, this is not gonna go well. Yeah. Like this happened with. Now, in a way, in Stephen Fulton, this happened with more famously Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, where you watch the first couple rounds and Terrence Crawford is dominating the shit out of Errol Spence in this high-profile fight that we've been wanting to see for 5 years. And it was 50-50 odds-wise. And I was like, Terrence Crawford's going to win, but it might be close. It might be a decision. And he knocks him down 4 times. And he ends up stopping him like later on. And it's kind of like, so and then they always say like, the opponent looks ready to go at that point. Like they don't want to throw in the towel, but they look like they're done. And I fear that with really Denver, because while I do think the spirit and stuff, like it'll be there to start, like you do wonder what happens if the Clippers take a 2-0 lead, which is possible, right? Like if Jokic is getting 40, 17, and 11 and they're still losing, then it's going to be like, are they just going to be ready to go? And all the Clippers have to do is hit them in the face. The issue that I have with backing the Clippers, though, is not even just playoff hardened, because that's a thing, obviously. And that's something that I've specifically harped in on for years, but also just Kawhi Leonard's health, like day to day. Like like if you told me there's a bet out there, Kawhi Leonard to miss over half a game, to miss at least one game in this series, I'm probably going to take it.
Yeah, I don't know how to predict Kawhi's injury stuff. Like, I feel like we're actually going too far the other direction, where it's like, on some level, it has to be, hey, he played 47 minutes on Sunday. He's played in the games that aren't back-to-backs. He's been consistently available. He's been playing heavy minutes for the last month. Guys have stretches where it sustains for a while. This is probably one where he's able to go. If they're down 0-2, I'll say this, the Wolves took a 2-0 lead last year on Denver, and they fought back. And I think that Wolves team is better than this Clippers team. Maybe not. That's the question here. It's just like this. I was talking about this with Brandon. You have to believe when you do all these series caps, you have to choose what part of the season matters to you, like for each team. Now you can't even do it for the entire season because you could be like, all right, well, I believe that the Clippers since March, that's who they are. This is the best team in basketball. Okay, so these teams that like the Thunder, that they're like, I don't know, middle of the pack defensively. Is that who OKC is? No. Oh, because OKC clinches, so that's different. Oh, okay. So we have different stretches for each individual team, and you could say that. And you could say like, well, the Clippers is most recent. Okay, they are like playing the best going into the playoffs. Historically, that doesn't matter. Just telling you, like the math, like the numbers flat out are just like, yeah, there's no such thing as playing your best basketball going into the playoffs. We can use anecdotal evidence like the Mavericks last year and the Lakers the year before, but overall, that has not been the case. The other thing here is the Harden thing I don't worry about. You should feel pretty confident there. And the Harden thing you should feel pretty confident about because like he might struggle versus great like think about the teams that he's failed to show up versus the 2017 Spurs. Yeah. The 2017 Spurs, the 2018 Warriors, like, and 2019 is like where everything went off the rails with CP and everything.
Not counting the Sixers stuff also.
Right. And so
like the 22 Heat, for example.
Yeah. So, and like he was in a different place physically. He had that hamstring injury that entire season. But these are all, even the Heat, like these are all elite defenses, and Denver's like trash defensively. They just can't defend. And so I have no reason to think as it's been funny because it's like the defensive numbers are better since the coaching change because they actually tried. Like they just decided like they were so, I don't know what happened, but they were just so unhappy under Malone that they responded. And I think a lot of it honestly is just Josh Kroenke coming in and being like, the owner coming in and saying, I fired your coach, I fired your GM, this is unacceptable, get it together. And guys being like, okay.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. How much of a coaching edge, because I think Golden State Houston is much closer. How much of a coaching edge do the Clippers have in this series, given the respect that you and I both have for Ty Lue?
I have respect for Ty, but Ty's also a little overrated. Ty's made some. The biggest concern, honestly, in this series is like he galaxy brains himself. He does it all the time, and he does it by going small. He always he reverts back to that 2016 mentality of if we go small, we'll win the title because that's what I did when I won the title. And so he's always like creeping backwards. And there's going to be a temptation, especially if Batum comes back, who I think Batum is excellent. There's going to be a temptation to be like, well, like let's just go small and we'll beat them with that. And if you do that, like I don't think you're winning. As good as Nick is, I think Jokic probably figures that out and solves it. And it's like they're not going to take Zoo off the floor. Zoo's like a DPOY candidate and the most improved. He might win most improved.
He should.
I get you, but they literally went away from him last year when they could have won that series by feeding Zubac versus Gafford and Lively.
You think even after this season they would do it again?
I think Ty gets really caught up on the idea of how they need to play. And that to me is like a concern. Nick Batum's injury is a big deal here. If Batum is announced as available for game 1 or ready for game 2, I'm hitting Clippers. Just am. It's a huge swing. But I do think the small ball stuff. So I like the parlay because on the surface, these series look awesome. And it's hard to determine who's like actually better. Home court in Denver matters a ton. So I like this parlay a lot. Giving the teams again, it's over 5.5 Clippers, Nuggets, Rockets, Warriors, Lakers, Wolves.
Yeah. Over 5.5 for each. It was actually better odds last night, and it's already moving in the wrong direction.
I'll look at you moving markets. Give me another bet. Give me another bet.
So I don't know how this one's going to go in terms of Bucks Pacers, but I do feel like, Giannis points leader, which I'm not sure how juiced it is right now, but it was probably more of a parlay leg than a straight up leg. I'm actually going to take a look right now as of the time we're recording this. But it's like Yeah, he's like minus. It's like minus 850. That's the only other one where I'm like, okay, I'm throwing that in the. I might throw it in this parlay actually, to like to like just get a little bit more. Maybe we'll get to plus 300 or close or something along those lines, depending on because everything's just moving. Like Giannis points leader was actually I think 650 at one point, and it's just all over the place. But yeah, like if he doesn't get that done, then I don't know. I don't know what to do with myself because we talked about this also on my YouTube channel where it's like it's kind of going to be Giannis versus everybody unless Dame gets back. And if Dame gets back, that may actually complicate some things offensively. But it's Giannis plus 4 shooters against a Pacers team that's going to be more balanced, more loaded, better defensively than they were last year, which is going to be interesting to see. This is a series that I thought about, all right, is this going to go over under 5.5, like potentially over 5.5 games? But this is one, I think even more so than the series that we've talked about already, where it's like, man, one team could figure out the other one very quickly here. And it's just a matter of, can Giannis and 4 shooters, can the 4 shooters hit 40% the first 2 games of the series? Then it's like, oh. And Giannis, meanwhile, is getting like 36, 13, and 8, and just walking into layups and dunks because Miles Turner is, caught here and has to cover here and is over here. Like all the things that we've seen teams exploit against the Pacers. Or is it that the Pacers are just playing too fast? Milwaukee just can't hit shots. And Giannis is going 7 of 15 from the free throw line. And they can't quite just get their offense in rhythm.
Yeah.
While the Pacers are defending well enough. Like this feels like a series. I think I would probably lean it still goes long, but this does feels like a series that one team could just win this 4-1 because they just figure it out by game 2. It's like, oh, we have the formula. This is over.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely like a potential tilt series, and it's really weird for me to be on the Bucks as much as I am, given how much I like the Pacers. But I really do not like this matchup for them this year. It's really funny because I loved it for them last year, and we made a lot of money on that. Brandon Anderson's also on this. If you listen to our Pacers Bucks preview, he loved this play as well. This is just like, if you listen to all of our plays, and it will sound not like galaxy branding, but like we think these things, like we're trying to scenario out matchups. This is you don't have to galaxy brain this. Giannis is going to get his. And Giannis is going to get his more than the others are going to get his because Pascal is going to have to deal with probably Giannis guarding him a lot. That's not fun. And Tyrese simply isn't reliable. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I have him as second team All-NBA. He's my first selection, second team All-NBA. But Hallie will have a lot of games where it's like 17. He's just not going to have them. Giannis did average 30 points per game versus the Indiana Pacers in 35 minutes of play. So if we bump that up to 40, you start to see kind of like what can happen there. Per 40 minutes against the Pacers, he averaged, I'm looking it up right now, 34.7, which is actually in like the back half of his averages, and he shot 65% from the field and 73% from the line. So yeah, and 14 rebounds, by the way. It's just, 35 points, 14 rebounds, 9 assists. No big deal. It's just Giannis stuff. Okay, is that it for your best bets for the series?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll put the Giannis one in a parlay in the app. Don't know what I'm going to parlay it with yet. If I'm going to add it onto the NBA stuff, or there are a bunch of fights this Saturday that I might just do a cross-sport parlay, which I like doing occasionally. So
Okay.
you might see in the app, you might see a Gabriela Fundora knockout along with the Giannis points leader parlay that no one else in America is going to have.
Any game 1 bets for you?
Game 1. I want to take whoever wins Heat Hawks to cover game 1 against Cleveland.
Yeah, it's good.
I might sprinkle on the victory as well, just because.
Yeah.
What do we think that's going to be? 13.5 for Cleveland?
I've got it 11 for, let's see, for, I think Heat I have it 11. Let's see. for
I think it'll be a 13 and then probably bet to like 11. Something along those
so
lines.
market differential at Unpredictable, they've got market ratings. I've actually got Hawks Cavs at only on the market line. Okay. At only 5.6.
They won there twice, did they not?
Yeah, I'll have to
this season,
check that.
back to back.
And I've got Heat Cavs at 12. I have Hawks Cavs at 16. So this kind of tells you like I'm gonna like Cleveland probably in this game, but it's gonna be hard because that game one of the 8th seed, the results are not terrific. Like it's not like outstanding. Oh my God, this is a smash spot. It's just kind of this is kind of interesting. The biggest thing, having covered a 1 seed up close with Denver 2 years ago, is the coaching staff stressed a lot and they complained about it all week. They're like, we don't know who we're facing. We had to do 20 minutes on this team, 20 minutes on that team, 20 minutes on this team, 20 minutes on that team for 2 days. And then when it got down to just 2 options, they spent 2 days doing half and half. So it's like you're trying to get ahead of like what you're trying to figure out, but you don't get to just hone in on the matchup because you have to split time because you don't know who you're facing. You have 1 day. Like they're not going to practice I don't think they're going to practice on Saturday. It's going to be like Friday night. They'll find out who they're facing. They'll probably do a walkthrough and film on Saturday.
Walkthrough, yeah.
And then Sunday they play. So it's like, so I think that's tough. But is there any other reason that you want Hawks and Heat other than the recent, like the short window time of prep?
I don't know how often rest versus rust, where rest is definitively winning. Because you would think, hey, this team is well rested, whatever the case may be. But like, if you come back after a long layoff and the other team is in rhythm, there's something to be said for, at least at the start of the series, the other team like having that edge. We saw this with Heat Bucks, for example, where the Heat had to navigate through the play-in, barely got in, and they were just sharper in the beginning of the series and didn't look back. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think with the Cavs, like, I was a staunch believer in this team, had their over, said at the beginning of the year they can win 55, 60 games, and they've done beyond that. And I think that Cleveland is just a prime candidate to like lose game 1 and then sweep 2 through 5. Like, of all the favorites in round 1, they're probably the team that's most likely to be like, oh shit, see? And then everyone's going to say they're frauds, they suck, they're not ready, all these different things. And then they just smash in 2 through 5. They just kind of need to, to make another boxing analogy. Felix Trinidad famously used to get knocked down in the first round of a lot of big time fights, and then he would get up and beat your ass. Like, it was like that woke him up. It was like clockwork. He'd get knocked down. His trainer in the corner would smack him in the face twice, like forehand and backhand, and then he'd come back out and fuck you up. And I think that's probably something that could happen to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'm gonna say game 1 is close. I'd feel better about it, ironically, if it was the Heat, because with Atlanta, like, they don't have Jalen Johnson, and that's sort of like one of the key things for me here. Yeah. And I kind of lean Heat in that play-in matchup. Despite the fact that I thought they were going to lose to the Bulls.
Yep, me too.
And early on, it was kind of like, all right, whatever. They always kill in the first half, and then in the second half, it's like, oh, the Bulls aren't making the run. Guess this is over. And I think with the Heat, I don't think they're a very good team, but I don't think they're also as bad as they've been. I just think Spoelstra just hasn't been great, and the players haven't been great. But now they seem to have figured out a rotation, and I think that could be bothersome to the Cavs enough to win a game. 2 would kind of surprise me, but I think game 1 would be the one to get. Yeah. And then if you're Atlanta, it's like, you've done it before. Now you're just shorthanded, but like, there is a formula there where you could potentially get one. But I feel much better about it if it were the Heat than the Hawks.
Okay. Quick note: since the play-in tournament, 8 seeds are 4-4 ATS in game 1. It's dead even. They're 4-4 ATS. In that spot, they are 2-6 straight up. So it's a better ATS spot. Game 2, the 1 seed is 6-2 straight up in ATS. And if they lost that first game, they're 2-0 straight up in ATS. So that's kind of your script for Cavs and whoever comes out of the East. That's Bryan Fonseca. You can follow him on Twitter at Bryan Fonseca NY. Catch him on the New York Post show. He's doing watch-alongs for Knicks games. You can catch him on his YouTube channel at Bryan Fonseca on YouTube, in the Action Network app at Bryan Fonseca MY. Bryan, thanks so much. All right, wrapping up with NBA futures analyst Brandon Anderson, who you know has a million bets for us because that's what he does. He finds all the best angles and bets them as widely and as broadly as possible. So, Brandon, we're just going to go rapid fire through these. Bombard me with the bets, sir. Get started.
I am going to bombard you. I'm going to go in order, too. So, I'll start with the opener. Got to play the opener. Give me the Pacers minus the 5.5. With Dame out, I still want to play the Pacers while we can. We'll see how long it lasts. Rick Carlisle as a seed favorite, 10-5-2 against the spread. And here's a good trend to keep an eye on. First 2 games of the playoffs, the teams that were last year in the playoffs but are on the road now are good fade. So that is the Bucks here. So those teams are covering only 39% of the time in our Bet Lab system over the last couple decades. Since 2016, that drops to 30% cover rate. So good spot for the Pacers. I will trust them to cover. I like them here. My prop in this game that I love, we talked about this on our series preview. Miles Turner over 2.5 threes. This is a play that they consistently go to against this Bucks defense, against Brook Lopez on the drop. It's plus 152 at FanDuel. I love that we're getting that plus number. 4 games this season against the Bucks, Turner had 28 3-point attempts. Now he went under this in 3 of the 4, but I care more about the attempts. We got the 7 attempts a game. That matches right where we were last year in the playoffs. They had this exact matchup. Turner went over the first 4 games of the series. He averaged 3 threes a game on 6.9 attempts. We're getting the attempts in the last 10 games. We're over 5 out of 10. That doesn't seem great, but again, plus 152. We're stretching the defense out. I think it's something they will target early to try to loosen up that defense. Plus 152. We mentioned series leader for threes is 6-1. So those are my Pacers opening game bets.
So they're going to play, the base coverage is still drop. So they're going to play drop in a lot of this, which if you pop against the drop coverage, you're able to generate pretty good looks here. So they're going to run side pick and roll, high to side, and they're going to be able to generate that Miles Turner up at the top pick and roll. Now, one of the keys is what I think Milwaukee will do is they will bring over a defender from the above the break on the weak side to guard him. The problem then is you have all these different outlets. So I kind of wonder if points and assists might be a play here on Turner because he'll be able to kick it to that weak side. That might be a game 2 play though. For game 1, I think it's a really good look here just because they'll probably test it and see all right, can you hit threes against us? Which I'm always you have a million years of sample of Miles Turner being able to hit this shot. You should just be able to game plan for this, but you have to pick your poison sometimes. And so I think they probably will. I like that very much. By the way, you mentioned Rick Carlisle, and this is his first time as a home favorite with the Pacers in this stint, not going back to back in the day. His first time in this stint where the Pacers are a home favorite in game 1. So
that Carlisle stat obviously is somewhat limited by our Bet Labs data. He's got a lot of years of coaching history, but good spot for the Pacers. All right, second bet, the game that you will be at, the Nuggets. I'm going on the other side, Clippers. Give me the Clippers to win game 1 and the series. It's 3-1 odds. I'm just going to give you the quick recap of why I like the Clippers. You can listen to the Buckets preview. I don't think that one-man teams make playoff runs, and I think the Nuggets right now, as constructed, are largely a one-man team. This is not a pick against Jokic. He is elite. He will do all the elite stuff. Summary from the podcast. I found 12 seasons that I compared to a one-man team with kind of average-ish teammates. Only 6 even made it past the first round. 3 of those 6 took all the way till game 7. Basically, the teams lose right away unless you get a big teammate leap. This is a Jamal Murray fade, not a Jokic fade. January 1 to All-Star break, Nuggets were the number 1 offense. Other than that stretch, before and after, they've been more like fringe top 10 offense. The defense is bottom 10. They're turning it over more. They're fouling more. The Clippers, over the last month, with Kawhi healthy, are the number 1 offense. Again, here, and the number 3 defense. Do I trust that long-term? No, I do not. But right now, Kawhi is healthy. So right now is when I will bet the Clippers until Kawhi is not healthy anymore. And look, if you just want to play just game 1, because Kawhi could hurt himself in game 1, that's fine. Plus 118, just do that. If they win game 1 on the road in the altitude, I feel like you have to leg the series bet too. So plus 300. Clips are especially good on the road in the second half. They're second in net rating there, so they can close this one out strong. On our preview, I got the Clippers escalator to take the series, about even odds. Clippers in 5, 9-1. Clippers sweep 18-1. the whole point here is the same thing. I don't really trust either of these teams, but I can trust the Clippers right now with Kawhi healthy and what that means for that's the team. So game 1 and the series 3-1 for LA.
Do you believe the Clippers will try and make Jokic a scorer?
I honestly don't know. I would always want to do that if I was playing the Nuggets.
The numbers on Zoo are very, very good defensively. So versus the Clippers this season, Jokic shot 55% on 2-pointers. He averaged 63% for the season, which, by the way, gross, but 55% only on 2s. However, he's going to play a ton of minutes. And if you think that they're able to lock off everybody else and live with Joker scoring, I'm just throwing this out there. Clippers money line and Yoke 30 plus. That's a 2-leg parlay at plus 430 at DraftKings. So
okay,
keep going.
All right, Pistons, my favorite underdog of the opening round, are kind of lead into the prime time on Saturday night. I got a prop for you, and I'm going to give you my futures play because this is my favorite futures bet of the first round. This is my Believe in the Pistons escalator. Over 5.5 games, minus 120. I think it goes long. I'm taking the Pistons outright, plus 360 at FanDuel, and Pistons in 6, exact outcome, 11-1. Here's the quick case. Since January 1, the Pistons are 6th in net rating. They've jumped from 20th to 3rd defensively. EFG from 26th to 2nd on defense. To me, that checks out. That is JB Bickerstaff's development. Takes some time to get there. Here's the defense, and that is a leap from Jalen Duren, from Asar Thompson, a little leap from Cade Cunningham as well. The Knicks, around that same stretch, have dropped from the 2nd offense down to the 19th offense. Now, we talked about this. A lot of that is Brunson being out, but it's not just that. I think the Kitty Moon is over. I think Cat really dropped out. I think Hart dropped back into being Josh Hart again. I am not convinced the Knicks are that much better. I'm not convinced that they are better. I think that they're very similar type teams, and this is a brawl. And then the Tibbs thing, the longer the series goes, now you have the younger, hungrier Detroit team against, Tibbs guys being grinded into dust in long series. And we gave the stat on our preview. Tibbs has had 9 playoffs. His team has lost to a lower seed 6 of 9 times. They've lost to 5, 5, 6, 8, and 8 seeds. Pistons are the 6th seed. Let's add them to the list. Round it out. This is my favorite upset pick of the round. And part of that is because I do not trust Karl-Anthony Towns. So here's my prop. Karl-Anthony Towns over 2.5 turnovers. We're getting plus money. Plus 124. Over 2.5. Yes, please. From February 1st forward, here's the drop-off for Towns. 5 BPM down to 1.5. 126 O rating down to 115. His rebounds dropped a couple. His 2s are down. And his assist-turnover ratio went sideways. He's got more turnovers than assists in the stretch. His turnovers are up 16%, up to almost 3 per game. He's had 2 of his 6 worst turnover games all season against Detroit. 6 and 7 turnovers. He's averaging 4.7 turnovers a game against the Pistons this year. I think Duren and Stewart are going to bully him. I do not think he's ready for this series. Since February 1, he is over 2.5 turnovers, 59% of the games, including both Pistons games. So I love this spot for Towns. I can't believe we're getting plus money on over 2.5. Give me the turnovers. We talked about on a couple weeks ago, Jim Turvey and I talked about who are the guys that get better and worse in the playoffs. My number 1 pick for dropping the playoffs was Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think we're going to see it right away.
I can't believe that Towns got traded against his will from the Timberwolves and still catches these strays from you. Like, he got traded against his will, and he's still catching Brandon's fatalist takes off of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I wanted to share this, and we got to keep going because you have so many bets, but I did want to ask you this. Matt Mitchell rule in effect here in round 1. Dogs that cover are 23-12 straight up, 66% in the last 10 years. You don't have to like that one. Let's just look at it this way. Okay. Let's just look at dogs that won outright. Okay. Dogs that win game 1 outright, Brandon. The margin of victory is 9.3. So my question for you is Pistons money line or Pistons minus 4.5?
I mean, if you're playing the 1, definitely Pistons money line. Like, I don't mind a Pistons money line play. Obviously, if you're with me that this number is way off, Pistons plus 360, I said that I would make it more like plus 140. That is a huge discrepancy. And if the market is that far off on a series price, then it has to reflect that they are that far off in a game-to-game price as well. So I don't mind that. I'm already pretty invested in the Pistons, so I may not play the game one. But yeah, if you just want to believe in the Pistons even more than me, I think jump on that. But if you're doing one, follow the Matt Mitchell rule, play the money line, just go get the upset right away.
All right, next bet.
All right, in the evening, Saturday, just a prop for you. Dante DiVincenzo, over 2.5 threes, plus 116 at Bet Rivers. Again, we talked about this on buckets. This is really, I'm kind of stealing your play here. Dante DiVincenzo is the above the break threes guy. Minnesota's going to have volume threes against the Lakers. That's a big advantage for them on the math. And Ant has already had some quotes about, like, I got to pass the ball, I got to move it, I got to get my teammates involved here. I think Dante is going to get those threes up with the Timberwolves this season. He's gotten over 2.5 threes 58% of the time. Again, we're getting plus numbers here. We also talked about, we don't think this is a great Mike Conley series. I love Mike Conley. You really love Mike Conley as Memphis. I don't think this is a great series for him. I think that means more time for Dante, more time on the ball for Dante, more volume for him. March 1st forward, he has been red hot, 45% on threes, 3.2 a game. He's over this number 65% of the time. He's had at least 2 threes in 18 of 20 games. So we are one shot away from cashing 90% of the time. We gave out series leader at 19-1, 16-1. It's been dropping a little bit, but I like Dante here. 4 threes or more is plus 250. He's 35% of that one since March 1st. If you want to go for the escalator, I'll probably just keep it simple here and just try to get those 3 threes over the line, plus 116.
Yeah, he's our guy. I think definitely for 3-pointers here in this series, just based off of. I'm trying to figure out where the Lakers are going to get shots from before I put in another bet on that. Dante DiVincenzo, second most above the break threes for the Timberwolves this season. 2.2 per game made at 39%. He's a 39% above the break shooter. That's terrific. That's a shot that the Lakers will have to surrender a lot of the time, and DDV can hit him. I like that play as well. Keep going.
All right, last one. Going to Sunday. We don't even have 2 of the matchups set yet. I got nothing on the Boston game. We're going all the way to Sunday night, the game I'm looking forward to the most this weekend, Rockets, Warriors. I'm going to fade my man, Freddie VanVleet. The man of the people, Rockford, Illinois. Give me the under, 14.5 points. It's minus 115. Freddie's been wearing down this season, man. Freddie, at his small size, at age 31, is just not a great look for him. It's his least efficient season of his career. 14.1 points a game, already his lowest mark. Already under 14.5, 55% of the time on the season. Since the start of February, it's even down further. 69% to the under. One more game away, he had a 15. Otherwise, we're 75% to the under. He's averaging 11.8 points a game since the start of February. Jalen Green scoring's up actually since then. I had him as a possible fade. Not going to fade him just yet. Let's see. More Jalen scoring, more Amon scoring, more younger guys. Here's the thing, too. Against the Warriors, we talked about this. He averaged this season 37 minutes a game across 4 games. He was awful. He shot 11 of 49, 22% from the field, 8.8 points a game. He's under in all 4 against the Warriors. 13 points, 11 points, 8, and 3. 3 points when he played basically 3 of the 4 quarters. Sorry to my guy, Freddie. Love you, but I got to take the under 14.5 to wrap up our weekend.
I'm once again impressed by your level of hate. Fred VanVleet is, by the way, referred to as the villain. That's how he's known here.
In my level of hate, get all the way out of here. You're still holding on to that series against Milwaukee. I was at that game, by the way. I was at the game you hate Freddie for.
Okay, I hate you too. Milwaukee. Yeah. You know what makes me most mad about that series is he went nuts after he had a kid. Like, the 24 hours after I've had both kids, I was useless. I couldn't do anything. I was brain dead. My first kid, my wife was in labor for 36 hours, and he just strolls on back in and shoots 78%. Anyway, it's fine. Going back to, by the way, one quick thing. Again, I know that you're not a big fan of these plays, but I did want to mention it for the listener. Pistons money line and Towns over 2.5 turnovers at Bet365. It's a 2-leg bet at plus 500.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I forget to check the odds sometime at Bet365 on the money line parlay. But yeah, well, last thing, just to circle back to the first pick. Again, the stat I gave out, if you fade last year playoff teams, so teams that made the playoffs but are on the road in game 1 or 2. So here's what that means. We were in the playoffs last year. We are a 5 to 8 seed now. We are worse than we were last year in all likelihood. You fade those teams, game 1 and 2, 61% hit rate ATS over our Bet Labs data, 70% hit rate from 2016 forward. That is a play for the Pacers, but it's a bunch of other plays too. So if you like one of these teams, keep it in mind. It's a play for the Nuggets. It's a play for the Lakers, Celtics, and the Rockets, and probably the 1 seeds too, depending on what happens with the play-in games. So if you like that stat, there are a lot of opportunities. I might just blind play it on all of those teams and let the stat do its thing.
Okay. If you're listening to that and you're like, what were those teams again? You will catch them. There's a written version of this podcast with our best bets on the Action Network app. So to go download that and you'll have that set. All right. That's Brandon Anderson, NBA futures analyst. I'll give you my best bets for the weekend coming up next, and then we'll be wrapped up for this Megapod edition of Buckets. Okay, before we get out of here, I'll give you my best bets for the game 1s this weekend in the NBA playoffs. Let's start with Nuggets Clippers, since that's a series that obviously I'm most familiar with, covering the Nuggets night to night. A couple of ones to start off here. Christian Brown over 13.5 points, minus 110 at DraftKings. So Christian's going to be guarded by James Harden or Norman Powell for the majority of this series. Kawhi's either going to guard Aaron Gordon or he's going to rest defensively by guarding MPJ and staying home on shots. Christian's going to have to be guarded by either Norman Powell or James Harden for long stretches of this game. Christian's an excellent cutter. He's smart. He's very smart. And he's able to slice and dice against whenever a guy is not paying attention. Norman Powell is a ball watcher and a little small for him. James Harden is James Harden. Harden's fine on ball. He'll battle. He's good in the post. This is not the matchup for James Harden. This one is going to be like a bunch his teammates always being like, "What happened? Who lost?" Oh, it was James. Okay, never mind. Just keep going. Like that's just what's going to consistently happen. CB is a much better player than he showed in the 3 matchups or the 4 matchups versus the Clippers this season. He missed a bunch of layups. I went through and did the film. He was able to get easy opportunities over and over and over again. So Christian Brown over 13.5 points. Oh, by the way, Christian Brown, second in the league in transition points and fast break points per game. The Clippers, one of the things that was really interesting, I texted this to Brandon after all of our Clippers talk. The Clippers, even after Kawhi, were actually worse than the Nuggets in live ball turnovers and turnover rate. That was one thing that they actually didn't improve at. So they're still kind of sloppy, which means that's a lot of opportunities for Christian Brown in transition. Their transition defense still wasn't good after the break. Everything else skyrocketed. Half-court stuff went way up. But their transition defense was one area after Kawhi came back that was still in the bottom 15 in the league. Christian's going to have, I think, a really good series. So I like him over 13.5. I will take the escalator at 20+ as well at plus 450. Jokic, 2+ made threes, minus 160. I'll take the escalator at 3+ at plus 190. If you watch these matchups, Joker averaged his 3rd highest amount per game against the Clippers of 3-point attempts as versus any team in the league. So if you took the average of how many attempts Joker had from 3-point range versus all the teams in the league, the Clippers were highest. The reason when you go back and watch is he knows that if he pulls Zubac up in coverage, that the back line is open, and that's how they're going to open up their cutters and their space and all the mechanisms they want to get to. You can't throw the lob to Aaron Gordon if Zubac is there to mess with it. So he has to pull Zubac up in order to make that space, and he's going to do that pretty consistently. He's going to shoot a lot of threes, I think, in this game and throughout the series. So I'm taking 2+ threes at minus 160, 3+ threes at plus 190 for a guy that shot over 40% from 3 this season. Now, for the full game, like Clippers money line here quite a bit, based off of I gave the Clippers an upgrade after talking to Brandon and Jim and listening to things around. I love the matchup for the Nuggets when I first kind of did like first glance at the series. I loved a lot of the matchups for Denver. The problem is just like if you really dive into who the Clippers have been and Brandon's argument about who they've been for the last 4 months of play, he's right. Like they just deserved an upgrade. And when I upgraded them, guess what? This winds up as Nuggets -1 on my rating versus the spread here at more than a possession. So I've got to go ahead and take here the Clippers on the money line. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to run a same-game parlay with this. Jokic, 30+ points, Clippers money line. That's plus 415 for a 2-leg parlay. The reason that I talked about this with Brandon, the reason I like this is so much. If the Clippers have a successful game script, they are making Jokic a scorer. Jokic goes off. The offense is still inefficient. the Clippers get theirs and they win this game on the road. That's a very reasonable and pretty common, honestly, this season formula to beat the Nuggets, especially in Denver. So I'll take Jokic 30 plus points and Clippers money line plus 415 same game parlay at DraftKings. Other games: Pistons plus 7.5. Pistons money line plus 230. Pistons alt line minus 3.5 plus 309. There's no opportunity for me to get anywhere close to this number based off of everything. I'm surprised because I figured that this line, because of how popular it seems very much like the Pistons are, I would have thought that they would have gotten more respect. But instead, nope, this has been 7 and it's pretty much stayed 7 all week. I've got it at 5.5. I've got 2 points of value, effectively 1.5 of value here on Detroit, and I like the matchup. I've talked about Cade Cunningham. I also think if there's a game in which the Pistons are going to win in MSG, I think this is the one. That Saturday game, Cade shines, big win, everyone's like flips out. The Pistons are the story of Saturday, and then the Knicks like settle things down and get a hold of the series like I think they will and win. I just can't deny the opportunity here with a first game opportunity with the Pistons with no adjustments being made yet. So I'm going to take the Pistons plus 7.5. I am going to play the money line. And based off of that conversation with Brandon about the alt lines for dogs that cover, I am going to take the minus 3.5 at plus 309. Finally, Magic plus 14.5. Just a ridiculous number. I don't think that you can dock Boston for their home court in the regular season. So longtime listeners are probably like, oh, Matt's fading the Celtics at home again. Nope. No. I think everything resets. I don't like using the home road splits when we get to the postseason. They don't tend to carry over in my experience. Like, I don't have a study done, but anecdotally, every time it's been like, oh, but they're really bad on the road. Oh, they went on the road. Okay. That's not it. It's just that with a full season base power rating with no adjustments, I still can't get here to where this is 14.5. I make it 11. If you give Orlando no bump for having Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero back after missing them for 2 months of the season, I still have it 11. This is a preposterous number. Boston is not as good as last year. Now, can Boston blow this game wide open and win by 30? 100%. Absolutely. No question. But we've talked a lot about the 3-point stuff. We've talked a lot about the pace. We've talked a lot about what we expect from this game. That's too many points. I'm not playing the money line on the Orlando Magic. I can't. I looked up the numbers for first round dogs over that are double-digit dogs that cover. You know, that Matt Mitchell rule does not hold. They are 3-8 straight up. Now, that's actually not awful when we look at like at what our hit rate needs to be at plus 14.5. So if you want to play the 14.5, I am not, far be it from me to stop you from going in on a money line on a 14.5 point dog. If you want to play the money line, go ahead. I'm going to play this one conservative and just say that the Magic can hang here and not win the game. There'll be another spot maybe later in the series to bet Orlando to win. I might be missing an opportunity here. If it is, then we'll talk about it and they'll provide like a good educational point on Sunday night. But for right now, I'm just taking the plus 14.5. Those are my best bets for the opening weekend in the NBA playoffs. I'll have a full card. They'll have more bets if you want to check it out on the Action Network app. I'm writing up every single game, so I'll have a bet on every single game. Prop, side, total, something. We'll have that. We will have this file in the Action Network app that'll have all these bets. We've already got our series bets from all the series previews. You can read all of that in the Action Network app. So go download it. Go do that right now. My thanks so much to David Payne for putting this episode together. It was a lot of work. My thanks to the video crew for putting this together. I know that was a lot of work, so I appreciate you guys' work. I hope you guys have enjoyed all the content we put out this week. We'll be back on Friday night after the 8 games, the 8 seed games are done to give you a preview of the 1-8 playoffs between the Cleveland Cavaliers and team to be determined, and the Oklahoma City Thunder and team to be determined. So hope you guys are around for that live on the YouTube page for the Action Network, and then Sunday night, 10:30 Eastern for our weekend recap show. Have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy all the games. Till then, let's get buckets.